Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor.
Call
you
Call
sponsor.
your
Call you
sponsor.
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's where, for me, it's just the experience, strength, and hope. Like, I'm just telling you my experience, strength, and hope if I've had similar situations, but I don't always know what's best for them or what they should do in the moment. And I want them to feel free to make mistakes. And then I'm not going to judge them if they make mistakes. And so much of that really was a result of a return to love. And a lot of the things she said, which is, one of my favorite ones that she talks about in that book is, do I want it? It's okay. So she talks about, it's more about the picture that's in the frame than how ornate the frame is.
Tell me more.
Basically, it goes back to that surfacey, whatever. Am I coming from behind the belly button or the fingertips, right? So she's saying what's really important is what's in your body and your beliefs and your spine, your whatever, than how the outsides are appearing and how ornate the frame is. Like, you could just have a simple frame. It's really what is important to everyone is the photograph inside of it. That's what should.
I mean, I would go one step further that I know for me, being a lot in my brain a lot, is sometimes my story or narrative about what's really happening isn't really ever 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I just have that pattern and that story, vibration, whatever you want to call it, that this is what's going down, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not 100% true.
Exactly. And that to me is the biggest growth, I think, when we can even recognize this may not be 100% true. That is a miracle, is a shift in perspective. So the minute I can even conjure up, hey, this story I'm telling myself may not even be true, that is more than 90% of the population will ever do in their lifetime.
Right.
That part alone needs to be celebrated within myself.
It's fascinating. I saw something online. I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but I think it's called OAR, Observation, Action, Result. It's like this 3-step thing, right? And so what it basically is saying is I observe something, 1, and then 2 is I take an action based on what I've observed, and then I get 3, I get a result. I don't like the result, so then I take a different action to try to get a different result, and then I don't like that result, and then I keep going back and forth with the action, result, action, result, action, result. And what I'm forgetting is how it started was my thought about what was really happening.
Yes.
And I never considered that my thinking might have been a little bit warped about what was truly happening, because I made all this meaning about something that has nothing to do with what's actually happening, but it's based on how my past is still coloring my present.
Oh my God. So good. So good. I have a real life example of this.
Oh my God. Tell me.
So my mom used to say, it's you and me against the world. She was adopted. I was her only child. My dad left. I didn't have brother or sister. Like, she didn't have brother or sister. So it was like, you're my only blood relative. It's you and me against the world. And now that I'm doing all this ACA work, I'm like realizing, like, wait, in a way she was poisoning the well. And the well was the world. And it's you and me against the world implies that I have to fight the whole world. I have to go out there every day and I have to put my armor on and I have to be ready to be scrappy and lie, cheat, steal, whatever I have to do, because I have to fight the world. And like, it's one thing to poison the well of like a coworker's down the thing, but it's another thing to poison the well of the world. So in that, like, I assume the worst. And I have had friendships where the mind told me a story I'm going on that story. I'm going. We go sit down and I realize, oh my God, this person's so loving and kind. Like my story was so wrong. And here I am having this coffee, like just, I've assumed that they have bad intentions.
Wow, I really, really identify. Thank you for that real world example. I like to say in Seven that we all have our own theme songs, and mine is They Won't Like Me, which is based on being verbally bullied when I was younger. And that's the lens through which I look at the world. They won't like me. And so everyone likes me, or I subconsciously, consciously, whatever, make it a point that people like me. And that has kind of for me been the work, of it's the noticing and then the ultimately being me versus me being a chameleon based on my thought of what you think of me.
Right. Oh my God.
Exhausting.
That is so good. And I feel like that is so much the essence of all the stuff that we're doing. And my song is I Will Survive, which means I'm surviving. It means I'm always having to get up and survive and trudge. And that's so much work. It's exhausting, just like what you said. I don't have to survive.
Wow. So this is exactly where we started, right? Like we're pure love bubbles. And then there's these other storylines based on, who raised us, where we were, all of those things that then shift that story. And then, minus the drink and drug and other things, I get to look at these stories. And, at the base level for me, it's like judging a book by its cover. Like how many times have I walked into a meeting, saw somebody sitting up front who was going to share and like literally did an eye roll, like, oh my God, I like know exactly what they're going to say. And then, what happens usually, and what happens in my experience, it's all experiential, is that they share something that's so profound that I really needed to hear, or they share my story. And you know what I mean? It's like those things. It's the thinking versus the reality.
Right. Or being in the moment. Like I've premeditated, I prejudged, I set up an expectation, and now we got to follow that storyline, even if there's evidence that doesn't support it. As opposed to, I'm just going to go sit in this meeting and be in the moment, and like whatever somebody shares, they share, and what, to get out of the mind, which is like, I just feel like it's the tallest order ever. And okay, you made me think of a couple of questions.
Yes.
So you started with, the Course in Miracle and how it says like we're all born these beautiful children of God. And, in AA, it says like we're born with bad wiring, like we're born alcoholics, but it also has the message of God is either everything or it's nothing. So where do you land on that? Like, were you born an alcoholic, or were you born a perfect child of God without any flaws or defects?
So I would say today in this now moment, I don't know. And what I do think, I don't know if there's a line. I don't really care if there's that line we crossed or whatever. Sometimes I hear in the rooms, like, who gives a shit? But what I do know is that there vibrationally, when I'm not actually born and I'm conceived, I'm energetically already being downloaded with other things. It's right. Like science has shown us that, were you a wanted pregnancy? What kind of issues was your mother like? It's been shown that does make a mark, right? And so I believe that I was conceived pure, right? Love, and that these vibrations, these traumas, these whatever we're calling them as I go my path, have marked and scarred me, right? To go back to this, like two people can heal, that are awake and looking, on their journey, playing their instruments, can make beautiful music, right? As long as I practice my own music and then bring it and then work together to coordinate timing and all of that stuff to make something else, right? So I don't know where the point is, but I do think today that there is a place of maximum healing and more fluidity and less resistance. Because I think for me, going through life, minus a drink and drug and coming into program, there was a lot of resistance of what actually is and acceptance of it versus how I think things should be, which is the disconnection. It's in my brain versus my body is for me, that's the disconnect.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
How about you? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm definitely in a phase of feeling like I was taking this message of you're born an alcoholic, your wiring's bad, to double down on the fact that I'm a bad person, that I'm different from people, and it's a victim mentality. Like, I'll never be like others. And now I'm more and more on the born perfect child of God. Like, no, what happened was there's software and I utilize things. It could have been an eating disorder. It could have been a gambling disorder. It happened to be drinking, right? Like, I just believe that, and I'm with you on the conception part. What's so interesting is, many years ago when I was pregnant, I had an intuition that every thought I was thinking during that pregnancy was my child's home. And so I needed to be very cognizant, even though I was resentful at a best friend, even though I was resentful at my mother, I could not afford the luxury of those resentments, and that I had to monitor every single thought as a loving, kind thought to make sure that I created a loving, kind home for the child inside me. So I love that you just, did that with science.
Okay, this is literally tying everything up into a bow because there's the inner child, right? So if I used to hear worrying is like, which are my thoughts, is like praying for what I don't want.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what is it then that I am thinking, right? Which goes back to what you would say is thoughts of love, right? Because it's energetically that is bringing me more opening and presence versus what's wrong, what's missing, doom and gloom. Let's brace for impact.
Right. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to read a quote from Marianne.
Ooh.
And this is a really, the first, okay, I'm just going to tell a funny story about the quote beforehand.
Okay.
One is, I was at a children's conference. I was doing education. I don't know. But the speaker, this older man, got up there and said this quote. And I was like, oh, that's Marianne Williamson. That's amazing that this guy is doing it. Like, I'm down with this conference. This is great. And at the end, he quoted Nelson Mandela. And I was like, that's not Nelson Mandela. And then another guy on the TV show Cribs, who was like on that 70s show, he was showing off his place and he had this huge quote that was Marianne Williamson quote that I'm going to read. And he was like, yeah, Nelson Mandela said that. Well, Nelson Mandela has given credit to Marianne Williamson. Like, yes, I said it. But at the time, I said it was a Marianne Williamson quote. But all these men only heard it once a man said it, which is really interesting.
Wow. How amazing is it? I mean, it really sucks that that's the reality. And just to be Marianne and to have Nelson quote her.
Yeah.
Right. But it's kind of amazing.
It's amazing. So, enough of the drought. Here's the quote. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine. As children, we do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Wow. I love that. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for reading that. It's like, it's contagious, right?
Right. It makes me want to cry. And it does go back to like almost everything we've talked about today, which is it's a sin when I play small. I need to shine and give other people permission.
You know, I relate to that thing, right? That contagious piece is which I get to experience, right, from all this 12 step work, is that when I'm in a meeting and someone is truly authentic and shares rigorously honest, it's like there's that silence and there's that space. I could hear a pin drop, and then everyone else starts sharing
Yes.
with that similar vibration. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And like you said earlier too, a lot of times that happens from this newcomer. And you just go, that person has 4 months and they got behind their belly button and we're all talking from our fingertips.
That's exactly it. I heard it from a person with 13 days the other day, and I was like, yes. That's
I thought you were like, I heard it from a 13 stepper.
no. I
They were
heard
just
something else from a
on it.
13 stepper. Oh my God.
So good.
Excellent.
So good. Oh my gosh. I love you, Sam.
I love you, Misty. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone else, just, bitches, go call your sponsor.
Sponsor.
Call you
your
sponsor.
sponsor.
Call you
Call
sponsor.
your
Call you
sponsor.
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Send us an email with comments, questions, or concerns, bcysponsor@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate 5 stars.